Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Everything is Bad new Fangled motion picture show.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a plague-ridden episode of the new Fangled motion picture show. I am Niall.
And I am Nolan.
And I will be doing my damnedest to not cough all over the mic.
Yeah, me too.
I make no guarantees.
Neither do I.
If you hear like random clicking, it's probably the cough drops hitting my teeth. So, just be forewarned. But anyway, so today we're reviewing
Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour, starring Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill. But Niall, you might say, Gary Oldman is not that fat.
You might say that.
He wears a fat suit.
Yeah. So, we're going to do a non-spoiler review.
Yep.
Then we'll throw up a spoiler warning. And then we'll do spoilers.
Not that there's a whole lot to spoil about any movie that's based on historical events.
Right.
Especially since I think most people probably saw Dunkirk earlier in the year.
This kind of tells much of that same stuff, but from the perspective of the British government. So yeah, this is about Winston Churchill in the first month of his prime ministership.
Right.
Is that the right term? Prime ministership?
Sure. His term as prime minister?
Yeah. So it starts off basically with him being elected.
Well, yeah, it starts off with Neville Chamberlain getting ousted in a vote of no confidence.
Right. Because Neville Chamberlain basically let Hitler walk all over Europe.
Yep. After Hitler... A little background there, so you know why people were so upset about that whole thing is when Hitler invaded Czechoslovakia, Neville Chamberlain went to negotiate with him because it's a sovereign country. But Czechoslovakia, the chunk that Hitler took of Czechoslovakia, he claimed was used to be Germany, and it's nothing but German people living there. It's ours.
They were forced to give it up after World War I.
Yeah, they were forced to give it up after World War I. Tells Neville Chamberlain, we just want our country back in whole. And to be fair, Germany was a really awkward shape. Czechoslovakia, literally did, jut into Germany, and it made this, bend around Czechoslovakia. But he told Neville Chamberlain, I'm not going to take anything else. We just want our country back. That's it. So Neville Chamberlain says, okay. No more, though. Hitler says, no more. Well, turns out that the reason he wanted that part of Czechoslovakia back is it's full of oil fields and manufacturing capability, which you need to make an army. Especially one as technologically advanced and mechanized as the German army was going into World War II.
And so Neville Chamberlain went back and made a very inaccurate quote.
He very famously said when he got down off of his airplane, holding up the documents that Hitler had signed, saying, I have established peace in our time. And then, fast forward a couple of years, and Germany owns all of North Africa.
Much of Europe. They're invading France at this point.
Yeah, well, I think when the movie starts out, they're about to invade France. Belgium had just gotten taken.
Yeah.
So that's why everyone's all pissed and gives a vote of no confidence to oust Neville Chamberlain. Because in a lot of ways, it's his fault for letting Hitler get away with it. So, yeah, so then Churchill gets elected, and then within a couple or few weeks, the events of Dunkirk happen. And if you don't know what that was, if you didn't see the Tom Hardy movie from earlier this year, shame on you. But yeah, basically, the Germans pushed the British, French, and Belgian forces back to the English Channel in a town called Dunkirk, which is you can almost see England from the shores of Dunkirk. It's one of the closest spots between France it's one of the closest spots in France to England.
Yeah.
So it's about the events leading up to that and all this political pressure because there's people in Chamberlain's party and Chamberlain himself who want to sue for peace, which would really just be a surrender because Hitler holds all the cards, and Churchill knows that. And
they think that Hitler would just leave them alone, which Churchill knows it will not be the case.
Right. So,
and we know from Hitler's own writings that would not be the case.
Yeah. So this movie was excellent.
Yeah, it was great. It
was a fantastic movie.
And the transformation of Gary Oldman into Winston Churchill is miraculous. He looks and sounds
just like
him. And you take someone, Gary Oldman's a pretty fit man, and then you add that much weight onto him through makeup and prosthetics. We're
suspecting that all of his wheezing when going up and down stairs and stuff was not necessarily acting.
Yeah. Well, I had read somewhere that the prosthetics weighed like half as much as Gary Oldman's body weight. So you add 50% of your own body weight back on top of yourself suddenly, and it took hours to apply every day. So
yeah,
it was really impressive. And it looks so natural. Like there's no point. At no point are you looking at that going, "Oh yeah, that's makeup. I can tell."
Yeah,
it looks like
it looks
like Gary Oldman put on like 100 pounds.
Yeah, it looks fantastic the whole time.
It's great. Even like points when he's like sweating or crying or whatever. It holds up.
Yeah. This movie was very, very well done, well executed movie. I cannot recommend enough that you go see it.
If you're looking for any sort of war action, it's not there.
Nope. If you were looking for war action, go watch Dunkirk.
Yeah, go watch Dunkirk. This is all about the politics behind the events leading up to basically right up until the Germans start the Blitzkrieg on England.
Start the Blitz.
The Blitz onto England, yeah.
Yeah. That's what the Brits called the Battle of Britain, or colloquially called, because they had blitzkrieged their way across France at that point.
Yeah. So it basically leads right up to the Battle of Britain, but it takes place over the course of a month or so.
It's about 30 days, I think. And it's also got Ben Mendelsohn in it.
You might know as director critic
from Rogue One. And
other stuff.
He's done
lots of other stuff.
In recent memory, the most popular thing he did was Rogue One. He's King George the VI.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone gave an outstanding performance. Even when even the actor who played Neville Chamberlain. He
had to replace John Hurt, who died in the middle of filming, so they had to redo his scenes with another actor.
Yeah, Ronald Pickup.
Yeah.
So he gives a really outstanding performance. You can kind of tell partway through the movie that because Neville Chamberlain is on the he's ostensibly on the side of. We should negotiate peace. We should sue for peace with Germany because we cannot beat them. We are so beaten thoroughly right now.
Yeah, they even had. Oh no, they'll get into spoilers if I don't.
Yeah,
I was about to explain like something more without we get into spoilers.
Yeah, and I mean, and again, I guess it's a little spoilery, but again, this is historical. Like you can kind of see partway through the movie when Neville Chamberlain is just kind of maybe thinking, maybe we don't sue for peace with this fascist piece of shit.
Yeah.
And like you can kind of tell in his facial expressions and the way he interacts with the other guy who's on Churchill's war council, that is
Viscount Halifax.
Viscount Halifax, who's also a very powerful person in the same party. So all the acting in this movie was fantastic.
Yeah, they got down the writing was great because Churchill was known for his use of the English language. He was an orator and he just knew how to speak, and he could come up with jokes on the fly, and he was known for being funny, and and there were several times where they demonstrated that. Like at one point, it's nothing spoilers. He's in the bathroom on the toilet, and he was known for this, conducting meetings. Like, he didn't have time to stop a meeting and go to the bathroom. He's just like, stand outside in the hallway, I gotta take a shit, basically. And so he's in there going to the bathroom, and someone comes in and says, the Privy Seal needs you to make contact with him. He says, tell the Privy Seal that I'm sealed in the Privy, and I can only deal with one shit at a time.
Yeah. You know? It had the whole theater laughing, had us coughing. Just like that. A little demonstration. But yeah, he had a very dry sense of humor.
Yeah.
And that comes across very well in the movie, in the writing. Well, I think is that all we could say without spoilering things?
Yeah, pretty much.
Alright, so from here forward, there are spoilers for a movie based on events that you should already know about.
Hopefully. Maybe not deeply, but you should know basics around this sort of stuff, I would hope.
Yeah. Like, even without having seen the movie Dunkirk, you should know of these events.
Right, so what I was about to, like, reveal before I stopped myself was, right away, because the only reason Churchill was elected is because of the rules of Parliament. In order to get someone from their party after Neville Chamberlain is thrown out, is ousted, they want someone from their party to be the next prime minister, obviously. So the only person that they knew that their opposition would also accept was Winston Churchill. Mm-hmm. So they offer him up as a possibility. The other side agrees, and so he becomes prime minister. But almost instantly, they're trying to work on a way to get a vote of no confidence on him, and then hopefully get Chamberlain back into the position.
Or, well, they're saying they would get Viscount Halifax,
right?
Because the party initially offers it to Halifax.
He turns it down.
He turns it down in what I think he saw as a strategic move.
Yeah.
Because if he looks like he doesn't want it so bad,
yeah,
you know,
and that actor you might remember as Stannis Baratheon. By the way,
yep.
The guy who played Viscount Halifax was Stannis Baratheon in Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so they're trying. They figure they can get him Churchill ousted if they get it on record that he refuses to even consider peace talks. And so they're trying to manipulate him into saying this at the War Council meetings, which someone is recording everything that is said in the meetings. And so, yeah, a lot of their plot is kind of revolves around them trying to get him to say these things. And he always stops short of saying it, and it's kind of like he realizes what's going on. Mm-hmm. But he knows absolutely that peace talks would be fruitless.
Yeah, because the price would be either more than England would be willing to pay, or because he knows that all that would happen is Germany would regroup, rearm, and attack while they still have the upper hand.
Right.
I mean, at this point, like, it's easy to see in retrospect, but, you know, Hitler did a lot of things that really prove that he didn't care at all about treaties. And I don't just mean invading sovereign nations, but, like, he had a treaty with Russia saying neither of them were going to invade Poland.
Yep.
And Stalin was recorded as stating one time that that he knew that Hitler was planning to break that, and he was planning to break it too. It's just Hitler beat him to the punch, basically.
Right. In retrospect, you think back like, well, duh, obviously you can't trust a man like Hitler, but we didn't know the extent of the atrocities Hitler had committed by that point.
The Holocaust wasn't well known until after the war, and it wasn't known at all until very late in the war.
Right. And so, yeah, it's like, it's easy to say like, well, obviously you can't trust Hitler, he's Hitler, but at the time, when you signed a treaty you expected it to be honored on both sides.
War was still a gentleman's sport up until, like, between the world wars, basically.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was an age of transition where we're just getting out of the way things were
I mean,
done.
to give you an idea, like how differently things were in World War I, everyone just agreed to stop fighting on Christmas.
Only the one time, though.
Well, yeah, but then also when the Red Baron was shot down, his pallbearers were members of They had members of the Allies.
Yeah, other pilots.
Other pilots on the Allies that respected him as pallbearers, and you know that would never have happened after that.
Right.
That's the last time in history something like that would happen.
Yeah. But yeah, so
I mean, it used to be you signed a treaty and both sides would have a party and eat and drink together.
yeah.
That's how it used to be, but no.
And yeah, we know now that it wasn't gonna. There's no way that would have worked. So it's really easy for the audience to go, man, Chamberlain and Halifax are fools.
But from their point of view, they could not win a war against Germany. Their army's too small, not nearly prepared enough, doesn't have the material, the equipment to fight a war.
Doesn't have the training and equipment to fight this new German tactic.
I mean, there's a scene where Churchill calls up Roosevelt saying, hey, we bought some airplanes from you guys. Where are they? And Roosevelt's like, oh, well, Congress just passed this law about international shipment of war material. They're sitting here. We can't give them to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because Congress was that way at the time.
Yeah. America was very isolationist up until the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Very much trying to stay out of the war. And so he's
Roosevelt was trying to get in the war.
You know, and he was saying, like, look, we can put the airplanes a mile off the Canadian border, and if you get a team of horses down from Canada to pull them across the border, and then you could ship them from Canada, you know, it's this whole thing. And they couldn't even get material, so
that they had already paid for.
They'd already paid for. That admittedly with money that they had borrowed from America.
Yeah.
But you know, looking at that sort of thing from Chamberlain and Halifax's point of view, a war with Germany could not be won by England, and so they're looking at any means to get out of a fight that they cannot win, to save the country, and so it. You know, in hindsight being 2020, it was a stupid idea that would never work, but there in the thick of it.
And to them, Churchill just looked like this idealistic fool who, you know, we have to stand up to tyranny and evil at all costs. And they're saying he's such an idealistic fool. He doesn't understand the situation, that we can't win and all this.
Right, and remember, Churchill's previous military plans had all been blunders.
Yeah. So the most famous of which was his decision during World War I to send the British fleet down into through the Mediterranean into the Black Sea.
Yeah.
To outflank and attack Turkey to distract them from their fronts elsewhere, and it's famously known as having happened at Gallipoli, which, if you are at all familiar with the history of World War I, you know was an absolute catastrophe for the British, and that decision weighed on Churchill till the day he died. Because again, looking back on it, it was a fool's move. I mean, some things
it could have worked if every piece fell into place just right, and it just couldn't have fallen in place just right.
Just bumped the mic. Yeah, and so, you know, but he couldn't have known that at the time. But I mean, he felt guilty about that till the day he died. And that wasn't his only strategic blunder that he made during wartime. So, you know, it really doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in Chamberlain and Halifax, in this man to lead during wartime. But now we know him as like the most famous world leader during wartime.
Right. And I think his post-war career lasted like a matter of weeks or something before he was voted out.
Yeah, he was voted out almost instantly. But yeah, so ultimately, in the movie, Churchill goes and rides the subway.
Yeah, this didn't happen.
The underground.
Yeah, this didn't happen in real life, and I've seen a lot of people complain about that. But
It was a cool scene.
We're making a bioflick, not a documentary.
I mean, we're not making.
Well, yeah, but
that's the mentality.
That's the mentality that
the producers
have. You watch any bioflick, there's going to be inaccuracy. There's going to be little dramatizations and inaccuracies in it. That's just how it goes. But it was an interesting scene where he goes to rides the subway and he talks, and everyone's like, oh my God, it's
the PM.
It's the Prime Minister. What's he doing on the subway? And so he's just talking to the people, and he's saying, put out there, hypothetically, if we were to sign a treaty with Germany, how would you feel about it? And they're like, no, that's stupid. And
he asked them if, because that would mean that the war would come to England, and they're all saying, we'll fight them in the streets. We'll fight them on the streets up above, and all this. And then he calls a meeting of some parliamentary council.
His outer house or outer chamber.
Yeah.
Or something.
But he invites
I'm not English. I don't know much about Parliament, so forgive me. But
yeah,
it's.
But yeah, he invites all the other ministers. Is that who serves in Parliament?
Lords.
Lords.
Is it a bicameral house?
I don't know, man.
I think it's a bicameral.
I do not know. I'm not knowledgeable of British Parliament.
Anyway, he invites anyone else who wants to see the
anyone who's standing in the hallway and stuff.
Yeah, you can come too. And basically, he says, I talked to all these people, and this is what their feelings are on the matter are. And he gives this rousing speech, and they're all behind him. And then he goes into the main chamber, and he gives a rousing speech, and everyone's behind him.
No, first he goes into the War Council.
Right.
And then he basically tells the War Council, no, we're not going to surrender. We have to stand up to this, blah, blah, blah. Oh, also at this point, he's already ordered the mobilization of the largest civilian fleet in history to begin removing people from the beaches at Dunkirk. Which, again, go watch the Tom Hardy movie from earlier in this year. It's really good.
So part of Halifax's and Chamberlain's plan was to resign if he ever did something like this, because that would show lack of confidence that the party has in Chamberlain, which would
in Churchill,
sorry, and that would make a vote of no confidence much easier to push through. And so,
well, to be fair, it was Halifax's idea. Chamberlain never really agreed to it.
Right. And so Halifax is like, okay, we're ready to resign, and Chamberlain's like, well, let's wait till he gives his speech first.
Yeah.
And so this is where you start to see that he's sort of changed his mind on the matter. And he's willing to get behind Churchill.
Yeah.
And so, Churchill goes and gives the speech, and basically all of Parliament's behind him after that.
Yeah. And this movie has a lot of scenes that just literally sound like a bunch of dudes going
That's the harumph. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
Yeah.
Give the governor a harumph.
It's a Blazing Saddles reference. But yeah, so that's where the movie ends, and then it fades to black. Text comes up and says, hey, they got almost everyone off the beaches at Dunkirk. So that's cool.
Yep. And then it's at one point, I think they mentioned at one point when America joined the war and started helping out, or...
Yeah, well, during that speech Churchill gave at that point, he basically says, we won't give up, we'll hold out until the new world comes to save the old, which basically means once America comes to save us, because Canada was already involved in the war, because they're Commonwealth.
At that time, they were, yeah.
They're still a Commonwealth.
Are they still? I thought they were...
No, they're still a Commonwealth.
I thought they were fully independent.
No, well, they're an independent country, but they're still a Commonwealth country, like Australia and New Zealand. But anyway, so yeah, it's...
Well, they were much more controlled by England at the time.
Well, yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah, they were.
Anyway, yeah. Let's see. There's these one points, like when Churchill's calling Roosevelt, trying to get him to commit to something, and Roosevelt keeps telling like, well, I can't because Congress has my hands tied. I can't really do anything. And they show these like really wide shots where the room, like, it's like this blank black space surrounding just the room that he's in, and it's just like he's really tiny in this room that is shrunk back really tiny. So he looks like this tiny little man when Churchill was such a bigger, larger than life figure.
Yeah,
and just a large man in general.
Yeah, there was a couple of shots like that.
And they're just like trying to make him like really tiny and sad looking.
It's definitely very interesting.
Because like normally he's so boisterous and everything, and he's on the phone like, Franklin, please,
yeah,
I need your help. And it's really sad to see, and sad to think that our country's isolationist policies at that time kept us out of the war as long as it did. But
Dr. Seuss was for entering the war.
Yeah,
there's some political cartoons you can go find that he made during that time.
But anyway, I think it's about all we have to say about Darkest Hour.
Yeah, go see it. It's still in a limited release, right? Which we suspect was to get it out in time for the Oscars.
Yeah, it might be in a wider release soon, I hope. Where we are, it was playing in one theater one night where we saw it. And then I don't know if it's going to be back in the theater later on, but this whole rest of this weekend is just Christmas movies at that theater.
Mm-hmm.
But it's playing at a couple other larger theaters in town.
Yeah, larger theaters that are either on the other end of town from us or just really terrible theaters.
Yeah, it's playing. Yeah, because it's playing in two other terrible theaters. But the good theater we saw it in, it might be back in next week. I don't know. But yeah, check your listings. Hopefully, it's playing somewhere near you. I know it had a earlier, more limited release in some parts of the country where we saw it the first night. We're able to see it.
Yeah.
Here
without having to go to another state.
Yeah, without having to go to another state to see it. So yeah, definitely recommend this movie.
Yep, definitely go see it. So yeah, what do we got? What do we got coming up next? Oh, Jumanji's this weekend.
Yeah, we have time to see that.
Maybe on Christmas.
Maybe.
That and there was something else that we wanted to see, right?
Yes.
The Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to see that. It doesn't have a great Metascore. Possibly because it really portrays P.T. Barnum in a much better light than he deserves.
P.T. Barnum was kind of an asshole in real life, and this is just gonna be all good stuff.
Which is fine.
It's fine because they're making it a family movie and a musical and all this stuff, but it is going to be highly inaccurate historically, and that might be part of the problem.
I don't know how many people actually know that much about P.T. Barnum, though.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and maybe it's just a terrible movie. I don't know. Or maybe everyone's like, why would they cast Wolverine? Can't get over the Wolverine being... Despite the fact that Hugh Jackman did like nothing but musicals before he was Wolverine.
Right. He didn't... I think Wolverine was his first action role. Everything else before that has been, you know, dramas and musicals.
Yep. But yeah, so...
Everyone's always like, oh, wow, Hugh Jackman can sing. Like, oh, didn't you see...
Les Mis?
Well, no, before that even.
What are you what?
Oh, I can't remember now. That French... that French theater...
I'm going through,
keep going up.
Yeah, I don't see what you're talking about, dude.
No, I don't know. I thought he was in something. Anyway.
You might have to mute that cough. That was like all over the mic.
We'll see.
Anyway, but yeah, those movies are what we have coming up. They'll get posted when they get posted. It's Christmas. It's a busy week for everyone. So
yeah.
Despite the fact that I want Christmas to be like the least busy week of the year, we always end up like obligating ourselves to a whole bunch of things.
Right.
So we'll figure out a time to watch those, and we'll post our reviews and all that good stuff. So until next time, toodaloo.
Bye-bye.